Hi, this is Pastor Ron from Alpha Lion's Den Ministries in Derry, Pennsylvania. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to our service today. And please, before I forget, like us if you're watching us on YouTube, and also subscribe to our channel. And in addition to that, please call your friends and family members and tell them to tune in and watch the show. You know, Jesus said it's the truth that sets you free, but he also said it is the truth that you know shall set you free. So many people just think the truth will set you free, but we want to tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So thank you for tuning in once again, and please support our ministry.
Therefore also that Holy One who is to be born will be called the Son of God. Now listen, many people used to argue over this before when they started to see this revelation, because we have a starting point, which is Sivan, which is the time of Pentecost. Now, this is what I'm trying to show you, what I believe, how this unfolds. I believe that John the Baptist, I believe that Elizabeth was conceived during that window. God does everything in windows of this time frame of Pentecost. That's when Elizabeth conceived. So if that year it was according to our July, if he says here in verse 26, now in the 6th month the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee, people did not know if that meant the 6th month of the year or the 6th month of her pregnancy. Do you understand that? There's a difference. Because she wasn't conceived on the 1st month. So if you're thinking the 6th month, it would mess all your calculations up. But the clarification is found in verse 36. Luke 1:36. Now indeed, Elizabeth, your relative, this is Gabriel speaking to Mary. Now indeed, Elizabeth, your relative, also conceived a son in her old age. And this is now the 6th month for her who was called barren. So this is her 6th month. So if you take 6 months from Sivan, in other words, it would be like our July that year. So you'd have July. Hello, Ron. April does not follow July. You're trying to show to people you know what you're talking about. So listen. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So that's our window. So if you take August, September, October, November, December, is going to hit you in that window of Hanukkah. This is the time frame where the Son of God, this is where Mary conceived. There is specifically 27 weeks from the time of that weekly service. When you go back and study this, there are 27 weeks, which brings you perfectly to that 6-month period, almost to the exact day where we can see where Mary conceived Jesus when the angel was dispatched during the earth during that period of Hanukkah. That's not when Jesus was born. That's when Mary conceived. So we know, according to this, that Abba, according to that Abba priesthood, that lineage, he was in the service at Sivan, which was Pentecost. When you take exactly 27 weeks, or you count out 6 months according to our thinking, it will take you exactly to Hanukkah. So John the Baptist was conceived during Pentecost. Jesus was conceived during that Hanukkah window, the period of Hanukkah. Then it gives you some other time frames here. It says this: for with God nothing is possible. Then Mary said, behold the maidservant of the Lord, let it be done according to your word. And the angel departed from her. Now let's go over to verse 56. Now Mary remained with her about 3 months and returned back to her house. So why would Mary have to depart, get back to her own house, do the things that she had to take care of, and at the same time, it says here in verse 57, Now Elizabeth's full term or full time came for her to be delivered, and she brought forth a son. So now we're looking at when John the Baptist was conceived. It's Sivan, which would be Pentecost. And if we take 9 months from that exactly to the day, it would bring you to about that March, April on our time clock, which would bring you right to the window of Passover to the Feast of Unleavened Bread during that time frame. So we know that John the Baptist was conceived on Sivan, and when you go to the 6th month, on our calendar, that would be like towards the end of December, the beginning of January. But that period that they celebrated is Hanukkah. That's when Jesus would have been conceived. But then it says here, it says that Mary stayed with her 3 full months. And then Elizabeth, that's when she reached her full term. So if you take the 6 months, add 3 months off to that, you get a 9-month period of which we're taught. Okay, are you with me? So really it's like a full 41-week cycle of pregnancy. So you can look at John the Baptist being conceived at Pentecost and John the Baptist being born during the Feast of Unleavened Bread or the Feast of Passover. Now the Messiah, Jesus, if we know that he was conceived according to this, on God's calendar, I'm just drawing a blank on the Kislev. Kislev is our December. So that would have been the holy time of Hanukkah. So that's when Jesus, the light of the world, when they celebrate Hanukkah, that's when Jesus was conceived. So if you take the 9-month, the full term period from that, you'd have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September would be the full 9-month term. In other words, the 41 weeks that they were looking at when you impart when the priests were in the temple and when they weren't. It would bring you right to this feast or this window that we're looking at now, a time frame from the Feast of Trumpets, which is on Tishri 1. The Day of Atonement is Tishri 10, and Tishri 15 would be the Feast of Tabernacles. So Jesus would have been conceived during Hanukkah, and he would be born during the Feast of Tabernacles. That's how it fits. That's a perfect layout and a quick introduction to what I could go 3 or 4 months on teaching this, because I could go back in and show you the service of the priesthood. And now, okay, Division 1 had to be in the first week. Division 2 had to be in the second week. But okay, here's Passover. So all the priests got to go to Jerusalem because all the families had to go and give an offering unto God. So then you'd skip a week. So really the third service would be on the 4th week. So when you map this out and you study this every single month, you understand there's a pattern that God gives. Now listen, it's a lot better and a lot more important than just saying, oh, I don't know when Jesus was born, and then they impart pagan holidays and then people are worshiping pagan holidays. Well, I'm not here to bash the holidays today, so I'm going to try to stay off that. But it is extremely important for you to understand this, as men and women of God, to understand these things, because it just wasn't any day. None of these things were done on any day. According to this pattern, hear me, John the Baptist was conceived on Pentecost, and he was born on Passover. Jesus was conceived on Hanukkah, and he was born on the Feast of Tabernacles. It's an exact window that's lined out here, a time frame that is so specific that you can go down and count every single day to find out when the Messiah was born. So then when we're told, hey, Jesus was laid in a manger. Listen, and they show the Messiah out there laying in a manger with a bunch of sheep and pigs and laying in cow poop. And I mean, that's not the way it happened. But we've been taught a lie since we were children, so we don't know the truth. And only the truth can set us free. Do you hear me? Luke 2, verse 4. Joseph also went up to Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea and to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house of the lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that when they were there, the days were be completed for her to be delivered. And as she brought, do you know why they had to go to Bethlehem? Do you know why they had to register? Because it was that time of the year that everybody had to go to Jerusalem and give their offering unto God. Listen, there are things in your life that you're suffering for. I'm going to show you next week that there are 7 areas, 7 definite, absolute, positive areas that I could sit there and show you that God says if you honor Him these three times of the year, that He is going to bless you. And if you don't do them these 3 times of the year, you're going to see what happens. And you can see it happening in people's lives. The people know when you show them this. I spoke to a group of about 400. I'm not going to say the group. But I was speaking at this group of about 400 men. And I taught on this. And they said to me afterwards, I said, everybody bow their heads. And I said, if you ever gave these 3 times of the year, raise your hand. There might have been 2 guys out of 400 that gave. And I thought, no wonder they hid it from the church. No wonder they said, after the Messiah was killed and the temple was destroyed, the Roman church decided, listen, we're not going to celebrate the feasts anymore. The feasts are the key to every single thing that God has for you. Spiritually, physically, and financially. That's how God blesses you. If you don't observe Him during His feast days, you're missing the times. They're divinely appointed. They're called Moedines. They're holy convocations. They're holy dress rehearsals. Now listen, did we go out and get a bull and goat and did we go back like the Jews did? Absolutely not. We observe them because Jesus was the fulfillment of them. Jesus fulfilled those. He took certain things out of the way. They're not a stumbling block to us. But we still need to observe these windows to know what God is doing on the earth. So listen, Jesus was not born on December 25th. He was not. Tammuz was. You need to find out who Tammuz was, then you'll know who you're celebrating. But let me show you this. He said that he was to be registered with his wife Mary, so it was that while they were there, the days had completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son. They wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. Do you know what that word manger means? Do you know what that word translated is from the Greek? It's Sukkot. You know what the word Sukkot means? Sukkot means a tabernacle. So why would the Messiah be laid in a tabernacle? Because it was during the Feast of Tabernacles. A Sukkot is a tabernacle in the Greek. They didn't know it when they translated this over to English, so they called it a manger. Jesus was not laid down there in a trough like a pig or a cow in a bunch of hay and straw, and that's not the way the Messiah was brought into the earth. He was laid in a tabernacle, in a Sukkot. The Jews still do it. The only difference between us and the Jews is we're looking for the second return of the Messiah. They are looking for the first turn of the Messiah, the first return. I mean the first coming of the Messiah, because they missed Him the first time. So this is the only difference. That's what it comes down to. We're looking for the second return of Jesus, of which He's going to come back to the earth. The Jews are looking for the first return. Now listen, they understand when it's going to take place. It's going to take place during the Feast of Tabernacles. Some people say trumpets, but as long as you're in the window and you're looking, you'll be okay. I'm saying the 3 feasts got to be fulfilled in a 21-day period, just like the first 4 feasts were fulfilled in a 50-day period. It is a pattern. When God shows you a pattern in the kingdom, He will not break that pattern. If God has 7 holy days and He fulfilled 4 of them in a 50-day pattern, a period from Passover to Pentecost, He's going to fulfill those last 3 from this time, Tishri 1, to the end of Tabernacles, which would be about Tishri 21, 22. That's why it's so important now to understand what's happening on the earth. There's so many things happening now. They're talking about the peace treaty. They're talking about signing these things on the Feast of Tabernacles. This just isn't coincidence. I'm telling you, there is no coincidence in God. That word is not even in the Hebrew. It does not even exist. There's no word for coincidence. Every single thing that God does, He has it planned out and mapped out. And I am telling you, these are the windows of when John the Baptist was conceived during the window of Pentecost. He was born during Passover, during that Feast of Unleavened Bread. Jesus was conceived during Hanukkah, and Jesus was born during the Feast of Tabernacles. And according to this, we have 6 months laid out, 3 extra months that Mary stayed with Elizabeth to show us a 9-month window exactly. So we know when Mary was conceived during Hanukkah, 3 more months that she stayed there, and then 6 months left. There are 2 9-month windows that you can see laid out by 6 and 3 is 9, and 3 and 6 is 9. It's 2 9-month periods. They come out to 41 weeks almost exactly to the day. God's just not out there winging it. Do you understand me? I hope I'm making some sense. This is just the introduction to where we're going with this. But I want to show you so you can understand that Jesus, God's Son, the Messiah, was not sent down to the earth to lay in a bunch of cow poop and hang out in a manger in a food trough. How could we? You couldn't try to teach us in more error if you did it on purpose. The things that we have been taught since we were infants are not true. They're not true. I don't know if people did it out of ignorance or if they did it intentionally. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is it's not true. So we need to have men and women of God that are willing to stand up and stand for the truth, because only the truth will set us free. And just like my mother-in-law said, no, well, there's all people all over preaching the stuff you've been preaching. I said, Betty, we preached this 20 years ago. We preached this stuff for 20 years at the Lion's Den in Youngwood. People thought we were nuts. I know they still think I'm nuts. But I'm just telling you the truth. That's all I can do is tell you the truth. We're coming out of a period called the Dark Ages. For 1,500 years, we didn't even have a Bible in English. So relatively, we've only had the Bible for like 500 years. And people are doing their best to dig and study, but almost every single thing has come out of that old Roman Catholic Church. That's where we've all come out of. We've brought all the pagan ways of worship that the Romans taught us when they had a one-world rule. They're the ones that put pagan worship into the church. So it was there for so long. I mean, we didn't know. I mean, we were taught, hey, nobody knows when Jesus was born. Nobody worships the feasts. Hey, them are just Jewish things. No, they're not Jewish. They're God's. And if we don't know these things, there is no way you'd ever know what is going on in the earth today. This is why God put the blood moons in the sky. Listen, Acts chapter 2 says, before the Messiah returns, that you're going to see the moon turn to blood and the sun will be turned to darkness. That has definitely happened. It has just happened. Now, every time it happens, hear this. Every time it happens on Passover and Feast of Tabernacles. The next year it happens specifically on the 14th day of the first month. Not on our calendar, but on God's calendar. Because listen, God's not following us. Do you hear me? God's not following us. We're following Him. So to know what's going on the earth, if you really want to know according to what God is doing, we got to put on the mind of Christ to understand what God wants us to know. I mean, I used to read these verses, and I mean, I know one thing. I've been doing this for 44 years. I mean, I've learned a little bit. And when it says a certain man or a certain woman, and it talks about these things, and there's dates and times laid out like that within a chapter, I think, man, they got to be there for a reason. And when I learned how to figure out the priesthood of Abijah, I thought, why does it say that he was of the priesthood of Abijah? And according to his service, that's when the angel Gabriel was dispatched to him. This is when the angel Gabriel was dispatched to Mary. These things just don't happen by coincidence. These things are divinely appointed times by God when he's going to do something on the earth. And when you know, it's like, hey, this stuff really makes sense. I mean, I can see how it happens and why it happens. Amen?
Amen.
I hope I made some sense today. I'm trying to do my best. But I've about run out of time. You know, listen. It fits perfectly. And every single one falls on one of the feast days. And you can calculate it out, not to the month, but you can calculate it out to the day once you know how the priesthood and that order is calculated out and put in the holy days when all the priests are in the temple worshiping. It fits absolutely perfectly. So listen, the Bible says that evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign. So people go, well, what happens if Jesus don't come back? You know, this and that. I said, well, I think there's some things that need to take place anyway. People are saying, oh, he can come back any day. That's not true. He can't come back any day. Jesus can only come back at a certain time. And there are things that he has to fulfill. But listen, I don't serve him just because he's coming or not. Because listen, we have a lot of people that went to be with the Lord already. You have no idea when you're going. You could have a heart attack, you could be in a car accident, you could get a sickness, you could get cancer, you could have, these things can happen. But I'm telling you, we are seeing things right now that people have never seen, listen to this, in the history of mankind. And I'm telling you this, as I stand before God, I'm going to tell you something. I used to pray to God and I used to say, you know, why do I got to preach like now? Why? I mean, I feel like I've been born out of season. I'm like born out of time. I'm thinking, I would just have loved to have been riding on a bareback horse, had an old sword, and go out there and I get shot with 30 arrows and they pull my body apart. I love that. That would have been the way I would have chosen to die. And I used to ask God, why wasn't I born back in the Crusades? Why couldn't I have done that? Why didn't I do those kind of things? He said, listen, that would have been too easy. I'm telling you, that's what he told me. He said it'd be too easy. And when he told me that, I thought, it's going to take some unique people to be able to stand for the truth as we continue to progress in this period that we're in. I'm watching these people out there getting hit with these hurricanes and these floods and these fires and over I hear this is a biblical proportion. This is a biblical proportion. This sets a new world record. This is a new world record. This has never happened before. This has never happened before. God is trying to get our attention. God is trying to get our attention. Why? Because he loves us. But he needs some people that are going to stand true. He needs people that are going to be faithful. So please, just hear God's voice. Get your heart right with him, because I'm telling you, things are happening now that's never happened before in the history of the world. I'm going to open up the altar just for a few minutes this morning. If you need to come up for prayer about anything, I'm going to invite you to come. And then we're going to dismiss. Greg, you're going to come up and play us a song. Hallelujah. Listen, I'm telling you, I couldn't put none of this stuff together. I mean, the people that know me used to scare my wife when we first got married. She'd say, that really ain't you up there. I said, no kidding. I couldn't figure none of this stuff out. There's no way I could even find any of that. But it's only by the Spirit of God when He finds a willing vessel that's willing to say what He wants you to say. I know not everybody's going to receive it. That's just the way it is. But listen, it's like going out and plowing a field. You know, I understood years ago that my dad used to call me a mule. He'd say, you just work till your feet fall off. And there got to be certain people that are willing to work as a mule, to get out there without no glory, listen, without nobody following. Not that I know our Saturday nights, I'm telling you right now, our Saturday nights, if there was 150 people in here, another 150 would show up. I know our Sunday mornings, if we'd have 150 in here, another 150 would show up. Because people follow people. And you get justification by what people think. But there's a time at the beginning when you're the one plowing, when you're the one out there laying that down to plant the seed, and dirt's put over that, it don't look real good. But I'm telling you, there comes a time of harvest. There's a time where you get, okay, a couple people here, a couple people there, and people grab onto it that are dedicated, that are committed to see the job through. And that's what we look for. We continue to serve God, not serving people, but we keep our eyes on Him, knowing that only the truth will set us free. That's it. We have an adversary. We have an adversary. He doesn't play games. We think we play games. We put curses on ourselves and have no idea what we're even doing. Oh, God wouldn't do that. God wouldn't do that. Listen, Zechariah and Elizabeth were blameless. They were a man and a woman that were blameless. They were barren. They could not have children. Think about this. Gabriel is dispatched out of heaven. He comes down and talks to this man face to face. And just because the guy didn't believe him, Gabriel said, listen, you ain't going to be able to hear or speak for 9 months. That'll get your attention. I thought, are you kidding me? Just because he didn't believe it? I mean, just because he didn't believe him, that angel? And I'll show you this in Exodus 23. I'll show you why the angel did it. If not, we just read over these scriptures and people teach us lies. We teach our kids lies. Everybody's lying to everybody, but everybody thinks they're okay. That's not the way this works. I have a concern. Listen, I'm going to stand before God, and so are you. And if I have a concern about people and where I'm at, a lot of people should really be concerned. I mean, this is serious business. You know when people are really concerned? When they're in the casket or their loved one's laying there in the casket. Then it's too late. It don't even matter then, I'm telling you. Did you pay your respects? I said, yeah, I did 40 years before that event. When you go then, it's like too late. What are you going to do then? You can't do nothing then. What we do for our family and our children and our loved ones and our family and people that we know, we do it now. Now is the time of salvation. That's it. It's now. Lord, I thank you for Michael this morning, for the friendship that we have with him. I thank you for your faithfulness, Lord God, to bring our past back together. You are such a faithful God. Words cannot even express our gratitude for your goodness, Lord God, that you're greater than anything. And your mercy endureth forever. So Lord, I pray for peace in his life now. I pray for restoration. I pray for wholeness. I pray for clarity of his mind today, Lord God. Lord, that for whatever the enemy has tried or sent or done for harm, You said that you cause all things to work together for the good, for them that love you and who are the called according to your purpose. So Lord, we thank you for this day, this moment right now. And I ask you that you would cause all things to work together for the good. Lord, you're just like Liam said. I mean, them prophets of Baal, they served Baal. They weren't even serving you, but you showed who you are. Just like Mary Ann said, you healed her of cancer. You healed my eyesight. You healed my legs. You've raised a child from the death in this building. You do that. You're